So the next one is the Hall effect sensors. Now these are based on the Hall effect, which was discovered by E.R. Hall in 1879. So what is this Hall effect? So when a beam of charged particles are passing through a magnetic field, the magnetic forces can act on these particles or they influence these particles, and the beam of these charged particles gets reflected from the straight line path. Now this is shown in this diagram. So when there is no magnetic field, the particles are moving in a straight line, and when a magnet is brought close to this field, this conductor, a magnetic field is applied and the charges gets deflected due to the influence of this magnetic force. Now a current carrying wire is a flow of negatively charged electrons through the wire. So if we introduce a magnet or apply a magnetic field, the magnetic forces can influence these negatively charged electrons and deflect them from their original path. So now consider a current carrying plate with a magnetic field applied perpendicular to the surface of the plate. So due to the influence of this applied magnetic field, the moving electrons on the surface gets deflected to one side of the plate and makes it negatively charged. The opposite side from where the electrons were deflected gets positively charged as there is no electrical neutrality. So because of this charge separation, which was due to the applied magnetic field, an electric field will be produced on the surface of the conductor or the material. Now this charge separation will continue until the forces get balanced with each other, which means that here now there are two fields, the magnetic field as well as the electric field. Both will be exerting forces, and when there is an equilibrium achieved between these two forces, till then the charge separation will continue. So this is known as the Hall effect. So the figure shows the scenario which we discussed in the previous slide. So it shows a current carrying plate with a magnetic field applied perpendicular to the surface of the current carrying plate. Now, as shown in the previous animation, due to this magnetic field, there will be a charge separation with the two sides. So, an electric field will be generated. Now, because of the charge separation, there will be a potential difference between the across the two sides of this current carrying plate, and this potential difference can be tapped using wire as shown. Now this resultant transverse potential difference is given by V equal to Kh into Bi by T. Here the B is the magnetic flux density at right angles to the plate due to the applied magnetic field. The I is the current through the conductor. The T is the plate thickness, and Kh is the Hall coefficient, which depends on the material used. Now for a particular sensor, the thickness will be constant, the Kh value will be constant, and for a constant current applied, which means it's a direct current, the potential difference V will be proportional to the magnetic flux density, that is B. So V will be proportional to B. The working of the Hall effect sensor is based on this equation, where the potential difference developed will be proportional to the magnetic flux density for a particular sensor. So the Hall effect sensors can be used as a position, displacement and proximity sensors if the object being sensed can be fitted with a small permanent magnet. The figure shows a Hall effect sensor being used as a fluid level detector, which can be used in an automobile fuel tank. So in the figure it shows the fuel tank with a Hall sensor being fitted onto the tank, and it also has a float which houses a small permanent magnet. I hope all of you know what a float is, which is used to find the level of the fuel, or it is a small object which floats on the fluid used. So since the magnet is attached to the float, now as the level of the fuel in the tank changes, the float will be also be changing. Means the position of the float will also be changing. Now based on the distance between the Hall sensor and the magnet, the magnetic flux density will be decreasing as the float goes down. Now we seen that the voltage from the Hall sensor will depend on the magnetic flux density. As the distance increases, the magnetic flux density decreases and the voltage will be less. Thus, by monitoring the voltage from the Hall sensor on the fuel tank, the level of the fuel or the distance between the Hall sensor and the magnet can be found out, which gives the level of the fuel in the fuel tank. Thus, the Hall voltage output will be a measure of the distance of the float from the sensor and hence the level of the fuel in the tank. So another sensor which is very widely used in our day-to-day life is the tacho generator. Now it is based on the Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. And one of the most widely used application is to measure the angular velocity of a rotating shaft. Now as shown in the diagram, it consists of a toothed wheel of ferromagnetic material which will be attached or coupled with the rotating shaft whose angular velocity or speed of rotation has to be measured. So it consists of a pickup coil which is wound on a permanent magnet with n number of turns, capital N. The ferromagnetic material or the wheeled structure is having a gear-shaped profile with a number of teeth as small n. So as the wheel or the is this gear profiled material rotates, the air gap between the coil as well as this ferromagnetic tooth profile changes constantly. That is, as the teeth approaches the coil, the air gap is smaller, and when the valley portion approaches the coil, which is stationary, the air gap increases. Thus, the teeth move past the coil and the air gap between the coil and ferromagnetic material changes cyclically. Now, due to this change in the air gap, the flux linkage between the coil and the magnetic material will be changing continuously, and due to this cyclic change in the flux, an alternating EMF will be produced in the coil. Now the flux change with time is given by phi equal to phi 0 plus phi a into cos of n omega t. Here n is the number of teeth on the profile, the omega is the angle of velocity of the profile. Now here the phi 0 is the mean value of the flux and phi a is the amplitude of the varying flux element. Now the alternating EMF induced in the coil with n turns is given by small e equal to minus of n into d phi by dt, where capital N is the number of turns of the coil on the magnet. So we get E as n into phi a into n omega into sine of n omega t, which can be substituted as E equal to E max into sine of n omega t, where Emax is the amplitude of the alternating EMF produced, which is given by n into phi a into n omega. So from the final equation we can say that uh, the alternating EMF depends on the amplitude as well as the changing value, the changing component n omega t. So for a given structure, for a given component, here the number of teeth on the profile will be constant, and the number of coils, the number of turns of the coil capital N will also be constant. So we can say that the amplitude as well as the frequency of the alternating EMF will be directly proportional to the frequency of rotation of the tooth profile. As the amplitude of the alternating EMF will be affected by certain other factors, the frequency can be measured. The frequency can be obtained by keeping a record of the induced EMF, induced alternating EMF. Thus, for the working of the tachometer, to find the angular velocity, we can record the induced EMF generated, and from that the angular velocity of the tooth profile can be found out, which is coupled to the original rotating shaft whose angular velocity has to be measured. Pyroelectric sensors are used to find the presence of infrared radiations as well as to find a temperature change in their surroundings. These are made up of pyroelectric materials. So pyroelectric materials are crystalline materials, for example lithium tantalate. Now they can generate a charge in response to a heat flow in their surroundings. Now how does this charge get generated? So when the material is heated to a temperature below the Curie temperature value in an electric field, and if the material is cooled in the same field, electric dipoles will be formed on the surface and the material gets polarized. The first figure shows this phenomenon. Initially, when the material is at the room temperature, the dipoles are arranged randomly and the charges are neutralized. When the material gets heated due to the infrared radiations and is cooled in the electric field, the dipoles gets arranged and the charges and the material gets completely polarized, as you can see in the second diagram. Now when the field is removed, the material retains this polarized structure rather than the initial neutral structure. That is, the polarization retains in the material even when the electric field is removed. Now when exposed to the infrared radiations, the temperature of the material again rises and the polarization of the material of the polarized body is dependent on the temperature, which is given in the second diagram. We can see in the graph that as the temperature of the material increases along the x-axis, the amount of polarization, that is the number of dipoles, will be decreasing till it reaches the Curie temperature. Now the Curie temperature is the temperature beyond which the material behaves completely different. There will be no polarization if we heat the material above the Curie temperature. This is how the pyroelectric materials behaves, and this behavior is utilized to form the pyroelectric sensors. So a pyroelectric sensor consists of a polarized pyroelectric crystal with thin metal film electrodes on the opposite faces of the crystal, as shown in the first figure. Here the middle portion is the pyroelectric crystal and the two end portions are the film electrodes, metal film electrodes. Now the ions will be drawn from the surrounding air and electrons to balance the surface charge. This means that in the pyroelectric crystal, even though the electrical neutrality is maintained, at the surface there is an assembly of the charges due to the polarization. So in order to, in the case of the top layer, in order to balance these assembled negative charges, positive ions from air as well as the electrodes will be aligned in this boundary. Similarly, in order to neutralize this assembly of positive charges, electrons from the electrode will be aligned at this boundary. Now, when there is an incident infrared radiation, as in the second case, the temperature of the pyroelectric material increases and it reduces the polarization, which we see in the second graph in the previous slide. Due to this, there will be a reduction in the charge at the surfaces of the crystal. We can see that in the second figure. Here, due to the incident infrared radiation, the temperature of the middle portion or the pyroelectric crystal increases. The increase in the temperature reduces the polarization and the number of positive and negative pairs reduces as compared to the first figure. Now, even though the polarization reduces, there will be an excess of charge at the boundary of the electrode and pyroelectric material, which was aligned to balance the charges present at the boundary in the before the incident of infrared radiations. Now this excess charge forms a potential difference across the pyroelectric material and it can be tapped to give a voltage. Now this pyroelectric sensor behaves as a charge generator when there is a change in its temperature as a result of the incident infrared radiation. Thus the pyroelectric sensor will detect a change in temperature by generating a corresponding voltage,